Facebook is allowing for hate speech in certain contexts. The change in its policy is in response to the conflict in Ukraine. One analyst characterized it as a misstep.
Facebook's parent company Meta will allow for users in Ukraine to issue death threats under certain conditions. Internal Facebook emails obtained by Reuters said the social media company will allow for people to call for violence against Russian President Vladimir Putin and Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko. One analyst called it a misstep.
This seems like a misstep from Meta. They have explicit policies that prohibit this type of activity, specifically calls for violence on their platform. So I think it shows inconsistency with previous policy, and it shows that they're really making decisions in the moment. This is kind of a crisis response, and it's very reactive in a situation where we have a developing conflict.
A Meta spokesperson said in a statement that the company temporarily made allowances for forms of political expression that would normally violate our rules, like violent speech, such as death to the Russian invaders. One email said posts of violence will be allowed unless they contain details like location and method. The email was sent to content moderators about changing hate speech policies.
We don't really have any idea about how they're going to enforce this on a large scale. So that's really kind of my second piece of concern. ISD and other research organizations work tirelessly to try and highlight and expose where this type of online harm is happening and where platforms have made promises about enforcing policies that they're not holding up. So I think our research has shown time and time again that when these policy decisions are made, the more carve-outs there are and the more kind of complicated the policy development is, the harder it is for them to enforce against it properly.
Original documents allowed for such posts from countries in Eastern Europe and the Caucasus. On Friday, Meta walked back the decision to only allow Ukraine posters to make threats.
I think the opaque nature of Meta and some of these other platforms is one of the key problems here. So we don't really know what this decision is being driven by. It could be that they are seeing a high volume of this type of content online. It could be that they're under pressure from external stakeholders. We don't really know.
Facebook will allow violent speech against Russian soldiers in the context of the military operation. Russia's embassy wrote on Twitter, users of Facebook and Instagram did not give the owners of these platforms the right to determine the criteria of truth and pit nations against each other. Russia opened a criminal case against Meta on Friday. Meta's Global Affairs President Nick Clegg said the company is monitoring the conflict closely and constantly upgrading their policies.
California's statewide school indoor mask mandate ended on March 12th. Many students across the state can unmask while in school for the first time since the start of the pandemic 2 years ago. NTD's Cynthia Kai spoke to a former public school teacher to reflect back on pandemic mandates.
Schools across California now need to consider whether or not to modify their masking rules following the March 12th expiration of the school indoor mask mandate. One educator from Shasta County reflected back on how the pandemic and school masking mandates led her to start her own education program.
Last year was difficult as a teacher. I was harassed after showing up to a board meeting and advocating for in-person instruction, just daily harassment because I would not enforce masks in my classroom. And I was given a written reprimand the first of my 15 years of teaching for not enforcing them and putting students at risk, in their opinion.
Fowler said she attended her former school district's board meeting at the beginning of March. She heard the district would lift the mask mandate on March 12th, in line with the statewide policy.
Knowing in the back of my mind that she had already pulled the religious and medical exemptions for students already in the district, it was just another, you can say, moving the goalpost.
In August 2021, she made the decision to resign. She disagreed with both the mandates and the direction public school curriculums are heading.
Honestly, it was just until last year that it just got really bad. And I see the indoctrination, the state testing, what the kids are presented to read and answer questions.
She and her husband, Chad Fowler, originally dreamed of opening a public charter school, but the charter school moratorium and education budget cuts pushed them to instead launch a tutoring program called Roots Farm. The program teaches students, in addition to math, science, history, and language arts, to cherish nature and skills such as farming, crafting, music, and more.
We want to teach children to love and value. I mean, we are still the most free and fortunate country in the world. And it's because of that Constitution and the Declaration, everything that our patriots went through to get us here. So we need to ensure that it's there for generations to come.
Fowler explained that they wanted to offer full-time private education, support parents who choose to homeschool their children, and provide families an alternative education option, especially in light of pandemic-related mandates. She and her husband are both former public school teachers. Fowler says they're still holding on to their dream of opening their own school one day. Reporting in Shasta County, Cynthia Kai, NTD News.
Gas prices are on almost everyone's minds right now. As the peak isn't yet in sight, calls for stopping California's gas tax are picking up. NTD's Miguel Moreno has a story.
Californians are paying the prettiest penny for gas in the country. AAA says people are paying an average of $5.74 per gallon. Some are even charged over $6 per gallon. Trying to suppress the cost, some California lawmakers are proposing a tax cut on gas.
It's time to give Californians some much-needed relief.
Republican Assemblyman James Gallagher wants the gas tax suspended for 6 months. That means Californians would pay half a dollar less per gallon.
Now, that's not going to bring prices down to reasonable levels by any stretch of the imagination, but it will help.
The lawmakers said they would propose the bill on Monday to the Assembly, which could suspend the tax as soon as everyone, including the governor, greenlights the bill. Governor Gavin Newsom has said that he wants a gas tax rebate. Under that plan, checks would be sent to Californians who own cars. In a statement to NTD News, the governor's communications director said the Republicans' proposal can be manipulated to help line the pockets of petro-dictators and oil companies who are benefiting from the spike in oil prices across the world. But it's unclear when the rebate checks would be sent to Californians. Making its way up the Georgia legislature is a bill that would suspend the gas tax. It's already passed the House. And Governor Glenn Youngkin of Virginia is for a 1-year suspension on the gas tax. CBS reports that Democratic governors from Colorado, Michigan, and other states have sent a joint letter to Congress in support of suspending a federal 18-cent per gallon tax. According to reports, critics of these tax cuts say the savings might not be passed on to the customers and that the suspensions could disrupt funding for city projects. Miguel Moreno, NTD News.
Elon Musk warned yesterday that inflation is hitting his businesses. He said Tesla and SpaceX are facing pressure, especially in the areas of raw materials and logistics. In a tweet, Musk mentioned an article about how the Ukraine-Russia conflict has sent commodity prices to their highest levels since 2008. That includes the price of metals used in cars, from aluminum to the high-grade nickel needed for EV batteries. And while these metals aren't currently the object of Western sanctions, some shippers and suppliers are steering clear of Russian goods. This, as car makers are already reeling from a chip shortage and higher energy prices. Tesla's shares have lost about 25% year to date. Last week, it raised the price of several of its vehicles, including its Model 3 long-range sedans. Orange County is building its first cemetery for firefighters and police officers. Officials say it's a way of honoring the sacrifices sworn police officers and firefighters made for the county.
Orange County plans to set aside 10 acres of land to build a cemetery for veteran firefighters and police officers. Supervisor Don Wagner said he believes it to be the first of its kind in the nation. Wagner said at the March 8th Board of Supervisors meeting, the idea here is to say thank you. According to the proposal, police officers and firefighters who spent over 10 years risking their lives or served Orange County residents for more than 50% of their career would qualify for being buried there. But the exact entrance criteria are still being discussed. The proposed cemetery would use a small portion of Anaheim's Gypsum Canyon site, where a state veteran cemetery is currently planned to be built. Before the project can move forward, the plan needs study and approval from the county's cemetery district.
For math lovers, it's a chance to celebrate pi, the circular number that goes on forever. But for others, it's a chance to eat guilt-free pie. And today is the day. NTD's Adelina Asaltane takes a bite out of this geometrical-inspired holiday.
Today is Albert Einstein's 143rd birthday. But it's not about Albert, it's about pies, all kinds of pies. Let's see some favorites for today.
For most people, if they hear that pie is transcendental, they probably won't think of numerical characteristics, but flavor instead. One Bay Area baker knows about both of those qualities.
Today it's Pie Day. Pie Day is 3.14.
It doesn't take a mathematical equation to deduce what flavor of pie one likes best.
Do what you like. Do you like sweet or savory? Do you like tart or not tart?
Sue said she uses organic flour and local in-season fruit for their pies.
But if you like something more tart, then try the triple berry or brown sugar pineapple, which is surprisingly good.
Sue moved to California after having a successful pie business in New York City. She is the supplier for many bakeries, including a local hotspot, Chromatic Cafe, that just got a new flavor.
The new flavor is coffee cheesecake. We've mixed cold brew syrup into the cheesecake, and then we've sandwiched that cheesecake between 2 layers of espresso powder.
I have mandarin marzipan, I have pineapple, triple berry, apple, and I think I have chocolate pecan too, actually. I have a chocolate cheesecake with espresso, actually.
I like pie. Apple pie is the best one for me, and blueberry pie.
What day is today?
Pie Day, but I didn't know that. Yeah.
Did you know?
No, not at all. My favorite pie, I think, is apple pie.
Happy Pie Day! It's good, right? Even if it's a Monday, everyone is coming out to get a piece of pie. Adelina Soltane, NTD News, California.